And good morning, Lagos.
Good morning.
Excellent. We also have Cheta Wanze. Morning, Cheta. How are you today?
Good morning. We have a distinguished guest in the studio today. Hi, Abigail.
Hi.
All right. Thank you very much, Cheta. And of course, you can be a part of the conversation. Go on to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/smooth981 FM Lagos.
That's right. You can send messages through WhatsApp 0809 444 0981. I'll start with this first story, Tata. I'd like your thoughts on the Guardian's headline: Police neutralize bandits. Oh, this is funny. Police neutralize bandits, rescue 11 kidnapped victims in Zamfara. What was it? A rescue, or what do you make of this story, Tata?
Very boring.
In terms of the details of what happened.
So we've created this habit of claiming that we rescued, whereas what really happened is that they escaped or something went wrong or a ransom was paid. And ransoms are paid with alarming regularity.
Even while the federal government has said that no ransoms been paid.
Please. I mean, how many of you remember a chap called Awal Dandi? He was responsible for the Kagara thing. Officially, there was no ransom paid.
Right.
But the guy came out after he repented, admitted that he chopped plenty money. And then after staying in government house for a while, and he's been shuffled off the mortal coil now by his people.
It was very
not by
quiet about him. Everybody went quiet about him.
Of course, everybody. See, ransoms are paid. That's why this thing has become really big. It's a huge lucrative business. One of the things that annoys me now, do you remember some years ago in Burning Quarry when the police said, "Oh, we sent a helicopter in and they shot 250 bandits"? Where were the bodies?
In Nigeria, we often don't see bodies, whether it's with the police or in other settings. They have said that
We just see one of our big problems in this country is accounting, and this is shifting away from what is it that they call it? This is shifting away from just these security issues, but in everything. We don't. So take COVID as an example.
Yeah.
You have countries telling you, oh, based on our estimates, we are able to estimate that so and so people have died in this country because of COVID. Do you know they have records of people who die year on year? So they have an average number of what they call expected deaths, and it is the excess that they are putting down to COVID. We don't even know how many people we have vaccinated in this country. So yeah, I'm diverting from this story, but it's just to paint a global picture of where the problem is. So they neutralized a notorious armed bandits. That's what they said. But if you look through Hussein Rabiu's entire statement, Mohammed Shio, both Hussein Rabiu and Mohammed Shio are the police guys in Zamfara that were responsible for the statement. They didn't tell us the name. They just told us they neutralize the notorious bandits.
How did it happen?
What is his name?
What's his name?
Now who Bona? Where was he living?
At least let's
No details.
Let's celebrate
It's
the
right
efforts
on
of the
details.
individual. Well, thank you so much for exposing these things or these facts, freshly pressed, and letting us understand. Letting us understand the ambits of the story. The second one from this day newspaper has LG, local government polls. Lagos announces restriction of movement on Saturday. If you hear this story or hear this headline, you possibly think, like I would, like every normal human being would think, oh, it's an announcement that's made ahead of time for maybe 2 Saturdays to come, Waji. But this is about tomorrow, though. And it's an announcement from the federal government, from the state government.
Yeah, but we've always known this is going to happen. Once the election date was announced, which was a few months ago, we knew that there was going to be restriction of movement. Why they choose to wait until 48 hours before that particular date to announce restriction of movement officially, I cannot explain it. But that is not inconsistent with any practice with which they've been doing for as long as they've been doing these local government elections in the state.
But does that make it okay?
We're not debating what is okay, what is not okay. We're just debating why does this even happen to begin with? We're just following a very archaic perspective on how we want to conduct elections. And until we move out of that thinking, move out of that paradigm or framework, we're not going to get anywhere. Because this speaks to a larger issue around the reasons why we are restricting movement of people who are not voting during that time period. Is primarily around security or election tampering or things of that nature, which begin to beckon larger conversations around how we just conduct elections even at a local level. But that is not the story. The story is the announcement of the restrictions, so everybody plan your movements accordingly. It's from 8 p.m. to 3 p.m. tomorrow. But even after that, still be wary and still be careful, because you do not know what you may face on the roads. And I just hope that at some point in the future, this is a conversation we no longer have to have.
Yeah.
So,
For non-hope.
why you being so nice on this
No,
story?
but what do you want me to say?
No, so the thing about I'm not expecting you to say anything.
Okay.
I'm expecting you to say a lot actually. I'm not going to tell you what to say.
Right.
But can we just talk about the normalization of anyhowness in terms of announcements like this? How do you expect people who have planned weddings, people who have planned their life? First of all, everybody has a right.
Okay, Valentine, let's go back to
Are you
how
married tomorrow?
No, hold on. Let's go back to what I said. The election date was announced a few months ago.
Fine.
Okay? We know, if you live in Lagos, you know that the day they do local government elections, you know that there is a restriction on movement.
Same way I'll know that there's a Salah holiday or Salah public holiday that's
Well, it
coming.
doesn't become official.
It doesn't become official.
Okay, wait, hold on. We're saying two very different things. Okay, we're talking about the normalization of anyhowness. That's what you said, right?
Yes.
So in an environment where anyhowness is normalized, you have to be a bit more proactive in your planning. I'm not saying it's right, but it's about adapting to the environment you are in order for you to survive.
And it's about reminding those who are supposed to do the things in the normal way to check themselves.
Let's break one thing down at a time.
Right.
Huh? Because where you're getting to is the ultimate goal of accountability, back to the points that Chetan made about how we conduct ourselves and everything else, which I understand. But I think it's important that we appreciate the environment that we are in, appreciate just how deep into the sunken place that we have gotten to, and what is going to take us to get out of it. And as we begin the process of getting ourselves out of this point to get to where you're speaking about, Valentine, which is how do we now hold these individuals accountable to now behave in a proper manner,
That's right.
we also have to appreciate that this is where we are, and how do we now conduct ourselves before we get to that point. Because until we begin to change these conversations around how do we now hold people accountable to do the right thing.
I just want to throw a small ointments.
Thank you, Raj.
To Valentine's point about weddings, if you're a Catholic, as an example, you have to have a wedding date 6 months to the wedding.
All right.
So 6 months from tomorrow, or 6 months before tomorrow, was December last year or something. Am I
January.
January. These elections were announced in April.
Okay.
Just a month.
I think even beyond the social, we don't think, oh, it's frivolous in quotes, because weddings are not. But you can say it's a social activity.
No, I am saying that people who plan their weddings as far back as January were blindsided by this.
I'm talking about even beyond weddings, businesses as well.
Weddings are big business.
It is. Oftentimes we don't. I think we've stopped monetizing the loss we make when we have holidays in quote like this, or we have restrictions on movement like this.
No, we haven't actually. People do calculate these things.
They do. But I'm
And
saying
nobody
that,
listens to
yeah,
them.
exactly. So that's what I'm saying. I'm saying the government, because if we did and it was important, we wouldn't arbitrarily just say that. And I'm saying this because this is a local government election, and I'm glad you mentioned the point as to about violence, in terms of security. And when we're going to get to a place in Nigeria where we have elections and we don't have to fear for lives and property, and people can move around without the fear of their lives and property. We have a commissioner of information, and perhaps that's why this question came up as to if we have, yes, it's supposed to be obvious, but the reason why you put that side by side is because you understand that it might not be obvious to everyone. And if you're a leader, you want to ensure that your information is accessible to people.
And you don't rest on the assumption that everybody.
Valentine, I agree with everything that you guys are saying. You guys are not wrong.
You're just
at
saying
all.
we should cope.
I'm not saying we should cope. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying it's about embracing the enormity of the situation that you find yourself in and begin to ask ourselves, how do we change it for tomorrow?
Yeah.
I'm not a
True.
believer in complaining. I'm a believer in understanding where you are and how do we now begin to do different things
I'm a
differently.
believer in complaining.
No,
No,
I don't
And
believe
also
in
managing our
complaining.
expectations.
That's it. Thank you, Valentine. That's it.
you go shout first before they hear you.
No.
If you know they're not going to hear you, what's the point in shouting? That's
Still
that.
shout.
All right,
Somebody will hear.
let's go on to
love it.
let's go on to the next story,
Yes, please.
right? It's interesting because we have a non-complainer and a complainer, so it should make for a very
Balanced.
interesting conversation this morning. Buhari, federal government will increase budgetary allocation to education. This day newspaper. President Buhari has given an assurance of an increase in budgetary allocation to the education sector, which remains the top priority of his administration. How do we know this? Well,
Okay,
wait,
let me
hold
start.
on. He had a conversation with the proprietress of a private school in Daura, where he currently is for the Salah break. Just to point out a few things, 26% is the budgetary allocation that's been
Is the
recommended.
recommended
Yes, that's been
budgetary
recommended
allocation.
by UNESCO. However, in the last budget, this year's budget, only 5.8% was allocated to education.
Down from 6.7% in 2020,
Yes.
which was down from 8.1% in 2019, which was down from the previous year, which was.
So it's the lowest
So
in
it's
10
down,
years.
down, down.
This is the
Or natural progression of things.
is the lowest period, well, at least since 99. So, but that's the lowest share.
Yeah.
Because some people will now come to tell you that that the budget is actually increasing.
Yeah.
I call BS on that because
Yeah.
the budget is not increasing. If you convert Nigeria's budget into real value terms, which is into dollars at the
It's
prevailing
actually
parallel
the
rate,
same or less.
it's actually less. The peak budget we ever had was 2013. So, but that's all besides the point. The point is, we keep having all these nice sound bites. What are the outcomes? Nigeria has, by some distance, the highest number of school children out of school in the world.
Yeah.
By some distance. As in, Pakistan is number 2. We have 15 point something million out of school. Pakistan has 8.6. That's some distance. We have 7 point something million children. It's a distance. 7 million children is not a beans. And you know the problem with children, they have this nasty habit of growing up. So those 7 million children that we have out, or those 15 million plus children that we have out of school, one day they will grow up and they will be in traffic robbing you. It is not cause. It is just, this is the natural
Cause
progression.
and effect, yeah.
There's a report by a lecturer that showed some Canadian lecturer on the violence in the Sahel region, including the northwest Nigerian states of Zamfara, Sokoto, Katsina. Bandits, the so-called bandits, they are terrorists. People who can shoot down a Nigerian Air Force jet are terrorists, not bandits. These terrorists are recruiting children between ages 10 and 12. Those children should have been in school. These are outcomes. I don't even know what else to say before it continues looking like a rat. But the fact is, they are not interested, and all of this is just sound bites. The man was in his village when they came to kidnap Kankara students beside him, and he didn't do anything about it until the students, something changed hands. The students were brought. Then they sold uniform for all of them, and they shepherded all of them to go and see him. He never went to visit. Contrast with, say, Angela Merkel, who she's living in how many weeks' time? She was in Washington when flood hits her hometown, not her hometown, her country. She cut short her trip, entered plane, and went straight to visit the people. We have leadership that doesn't empathize with people, and that lack of empathy is personalized by Muhammadu Buhari. He has zero empathy. Just all these sound bites. The practical thing is that your percentage allocation of the budget year and year has been going down to education and health.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank
Thank
you
you
for
very
that.
much.
We have messages. Tunji says, "How about people who live outside Lagos? Who plans to come into Lagos tomorrow? They didn't hear the announcement 2 months ago. They will land in Lagos and enter police trouble." And that's also talking about
Anything for the boys.
yep, and taking advantage of the situation. Abayemi Akarakiri says, "Once again, thank you, Waji. Always a balanced analysis from you." He says, "Points. Okay. Let's move on to this one. D from Alausa says, I agree with Waji that we have to cooperate or operate beyond the environment so as to succeed individually and also change the narrative overall. We cannot spend our lives complaining."
Thank you. That's all. And I just want to make that point clear. And just going back to, this thing about, and Cheta has made some fantastic points with this education story. I think it's about where you direct your energy towards. And for me, looking at the analysis that the allocation for education has gone down year on year is actually very worrying. And when you now look at that as health as well. So for me,
one more stats.
No, hold on. Let me just. And so for me, we need to really begin to ask ourselves, how do we change the conversation around the leadership that we deserve, if we are the ones putting these people in power? Okay. And if we know these things, we need to begin to look at ourselves. We can keep complaining and blaming those individuals, but at what point do we now begin to change the conversation and take control of these things and turn things around?
Because the truth is, we have a major stake.
That's it. We have the only stake. It's our country.
We do.
Okay. One more stat for education from the UNICEF Education Survey 2019. 86% of Nigerian students do not make the transition from junior secondary to senior secondary school.
Yeah.
And there are strong reasons behind that.
86% of students in Nigeria stop education at 14 years old. In 10 years' time, that 14-year-old will be 24.
Well, it wasn't up to 10 years ago that we had this story about Bitcoin being banned. A few months after, wow. The CBN to launch digital currency October 1st. Speaking of being poetic, poetic release announcements, justice. What do you call this, Waji?
Okay. All right. Cheta hit the nail on the head when he talked about leadership and body language and the way leaders operate. There is no better way to describe this than irony. You understand? In October 2020, which is coming on a year now, the language and the attitude towards digital currencies was so fiery and so contentious, you thought it was the absolute behemoth of the devil operating within the Nigerian sphere.
I'll quote what you said.
Please do. Yeah, go on.
Waji said, we need to move beyond this behavior of what you don't understand, you ban.
Thank you. So now, and that's what it was. What you don't understand, you ban.
Yes.
But now, CBN wants to launch a digital currency. Now, first and foremost, I have a gigantic issue with any regulator launching a digital currency. I just don't understand why they're getting involved in that. You should create enabling environments for private individuals to begin to launch digital currencies. And then what you do is put in the necessary regulations to allow it to operate fairly so people have access and people are not operating outside of the ambit of the law.
I kind of disagree with that, though.
I know, because that defeats the entire purpose of an ethos of what digital currency is. So for me, unless you're redefining what digital currency is meant to do, then okay, fine. Then you can now see how CBN is getting in there. But in terms of the philosophy behind why digital currencies exist, I do not know why a regulator is getting involved. I get it. I understand they want to now do it for commercial reasons. It's about supply and demand to see how you can ensure that the Naira gets some kind of boost because of availability and demand, et cetera, et cetera. I get all that. But in terms of the spirit of why digital currencies exist, which allow people to have the freedom of transactional movement of money, I do not know why regulators getting involved. But that's just my own very personal
and also
opinion.
considering the nature of the currency.
Yeah.
Digital currencies have proven to be a store of value. And when things become a store of value, people tend to make a run on them. People tend to run into them, which will remove sovereignty from central banks, which indirectly removes sovereignty from governments, which is why you are seeing different governments at different levels, including the CBN, whom I don't rate that much, are looking for ways to get into the digital currency thing. The most advanced right now, the Chinese. but the European Central Bank is working at it. Even the US Federal Reserve is exploring it. So in this respect, the CBN, I don't have a quarrel with them looking to get into it. Of course, I do have a quarrel with their knee-jerk reaction from a few months ago when they banned trading in cryptocurrencies. I do have a problem with the manner in which this has gone, because they haven't even studied it completely. As far as I know, I think I should add that.
Yeah, but Cheta, you're
again,
proving my point, though.
No, I'm not. We're saying two different things. That's listen. At the end of the point I'm trying to make is that we have to get on with the game. Central banks are going to get into digital currencies. It's what is going to happen. My own fear with respect to Nigeria is we don't have lights, because things like no, it's true now.
No, but it's the truth. I'm laughing.
Digital currencies to run them take a lot of energy.
I'll give you an idea or
so-
an insight into that. You made a reference to China. They first banned it in 2013. In 2017, they also banned initial offerings by banks. They banned banks from operating in that space, but they allowed the miners, the Bitcoin or crypto miners, to go on with their operations. Not until recently did they start, restricting their movement or their operations. But they established they provide cheap electricity, one of the cheapest in the world.
But this is my point. Let's separate two things. There's regulation and there's actually you getting involved. Okay.
So the point I'm making is that central banks will get involved because it's a sovereignty issue. So
Because
don't like it.
Yeah, but it's not. But it's not.
Exactly.
But it's not your currency, though. That's the thing. So why are you getting involved? I don't understand.
because
Because what is going to happen is that it is so Bitcoin, for example. I think that's the best
Right.
example used. Bitcoin is a distributed ledger that nobody controls.
Right.
Governments don't like that.
Of course they don't.
Governments want to control it.
Yeah.
So what will happen is that governments will get into the space
To counter
and then
it.
they will edge
Okay.
Bitcoin
Alright.
out. So we have to be realistic about
Okay.
that.
Alright.
So in this respect, CBN isn't doing the wrong thing. For me, my own issue is the typical cat before the horse approach, because electricity penetration in Nigeria is give or take about 42%.
Oh, is that high? Well, okay.
When you see it. But I think those are the infrastructure problems that we have to talk about, because
Yeah.
this thing will be easy to hack.
All right. We need to move on very quickly.
Although the project is called Project Giant.
All right,
Yeah.
excellent. We need to move on very quickly. We have 4 more stories to get through, and I'll just ask that we spend just a few minutes on each of the stories. The next one here, Cheta. Beninese court orders release of Igboho's wife. Court of Appeal in Benin Republic has ordered the release of Rokpo, the wife of Sunday Adeni, popularly known as Sunday Igboho.
Which one of his wives? He has 2 wives.
She just said his name.
The one that they did.
Roko, yeah.
Roko.
Roko,
Yeah.
all right. So, Cheta, your take on this very quickly, please.
I don't really have a take on it. It's an evolving story. But
Yes.
the key thing it's showing for me is that Benin has a functioning legal system at some point, which they are following the process. It's not the one that we can go and knock the doors of judges down in the night and then force them to do what we want to do, or where the government will disobey the orders. So that's the key thing. It's still a developing story.
Absolutely, yeah.
I think for me the major thing, which I wouldn't want to go into right now because it's diversionary, is the difference in reaction to different actors by the Nigerian federal government based on where they are from. But that's another story entirely, so let's not go into that.
All right.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
for that. Waji, I'll come to you for your take on this story. We have not stopped Nigerians from using Twitter. Actually, that's. I am so sorry.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's my story. So we've not stopped Nigerians from using Twitter. I think that in itself is a headline. It's an attention-grabbing headline.
Why are you people
So
promoting illegality?
It's from what the federal government has
Federal
told the
government
Federal
has said
High
it,
Court
yeah.
in Lagos that it has not stopped Nigerians from using social media platform Twitter, adding that many Nigerians are still using it every day.
Wow.
This is when you try to be clever by half, okay? To safeguard yourself against legal suits that are in place, in the sense of how you cannot prevent certain access to micro blogging platforms
Platform, yeah.
such as Twitter, because it's an infringement against the Constitution. And if a proper lawyer is actually able to take this up, then the federal government will be shown that they are actually wrong. So this statement is more or less safeguarding themselves against, to come up with something clever to say that yes, just because we suspended operations pending when Twitter registers with NBC or with CAC or whatever the case may be, but we have not actually technically, quote unquote, stopped or persecuted any Nigerian from using Twitter is a very get out of jail card way. In case the hammer does come down, you can say, well, we were just following some procedural banter,
So-
et cetera, et cetera. Now that's just what this is. It's
Yeah.
just people just trying to be clever.
What you're assuming, I'm not assuming. I know Serap have strong lawyers. Yeah? Assuming this is proven that they lied in court. What's the consequence for contempt of court?
Nothing.
Nothing.
But talking about the AGF here.
See, it
this
is
is that's the
Attorney
Attorney
General
General
of the
of the
Federation.
Federation.
Well, I don't know what the actual
Nothing will
legal.
happen.
Wait, hold on. Two different. I don't know what the actual legal statutes stipulate will happen in terms of for contempt, but I'm not encouraged that anything will happen. I'm sorry.
See, this is for me. It's a shame that Serap is the only one doing this.
Yeah, it is.
Trying to push this. You people should have been trying to push this, but all of you just yes.
You are included, Cheta, because you
not a
analyze
broadcast.
news. You
I
don't-
still tweet.
Beyond even
I still
analyzing,
Posting.
Yeah.
beyond
The-
even
the-
analyzing.
no, you people, broadcast media especially, are most guilty of this thing because NBC illegally told you to stop tweeting, and all of you just complied.
No, no, but they sent a document, an official document in that respect.
Backed by what law?
So hold on. You can, if regulatory body in Nigeria sends you an order, the first thing you do is comply and address it in court, which a number of people have done. The reason
Which
I'm saying that,
broadcast
wait,
media
hold
has
on,
sued?
Cheta.
Which one?
The
Name
reason
one.
I'm
No, they
saying
came
that,
together too soon.
Cheta, the reason I'm saying
Where?
that is that
Hang on.
sometimes.
Point me to the suit.
Hang
Cheta, let me
on.
finish. Sometimes you lose a battle to win a war. There's no point we all going off air and not being able to present in order to prove a point and not ultimately proving them wrong in the court of law. They often say two wrongs don't make a right. The truth is that
Can I-
you
can I
understand.
give you-
No, you can't. You understand the way the NBC has run in recent times. So you cannot act as if you're a stranger to things happening in Nigeria. Unfortunately, a number of people have said that many agencies are overregulated, and we don't seem to have a choice except going through the court, through the route of the law. So saying that, we should have shut down, would you be here speaking if I had gone down, at least whilst we're still in court?
Oh yeah, on my mic.
Yeah, still on.
I mean, so going by your
Yeah,
point, you won't have a mic to speak on if you went ahead to actually go ahead to flout the
Now you are
regulators.
not letting me talk.
Go
I
ahead.
have a right of reply. Now, if you want to look at power of numbers,
Yes.
2 weeks ago, all the newspapers ran a particular ad, front page, blackouts on
Yes.
top of the media bill that they were trying to push.
Yes. Who reported the story?
The newspapers.
No, us.
You talked about it.
Yes.
Better go on. We're
Now,
almost at
after the newspapers ran that, the media bill that the government was trying to push was stepped down. Not removed, I admit, but stepped down. Now, I didn't say, and we can play this thing back, I didn't say you people should have gone off air. I said all of you should have come together and continue to tweet. Nothing they would have done at that point. But all of you meekly closed your Twitter accounts. All of you.
Like you don't live in
And-
Nigeria.
You see, this is
I do
precisely
get your
the
point. No, I do get your
This
point.
is precisely the
I
point.
do get your point. I wish we had a longer time to have this debate. I do get
You
your
people
point.
have shifted
But
Lagos
it's
talk,
a
so let us continue talking.
No, it's a different
It's
conversation.
not different. It's the
so
same thing. Now the same
different.
papa born two of them.
It's so
The same
different.
papa, the same mama.
Okay. All right, let's go on to the next story. Well, actually, we're out of time. Do we have any that we feel, just as
We
we
want
have
to take
mentioned,
messages, please.
yeah,
Yes.
Yoruba Nation rally, Lagos police keep mom on sales girls autopsy report.
Can I say
Shield
something in
killer
10
called-
seconds on that?
No, please.
It's
No,
a
no.
good example of how the police lie a lot because this girl, the autopsy showed she was shot. The police still insist that she was stabbed.
Established.
And then we want us to believe that Zamfara State Police killed so many bandits.
She says, good morning, guys. Tata, thanks for bringing out the number of school children info. It's by far the greatest gunpowder we're sitting on right now. Those kids begging at Jakonde and Echo Bridge are practically ready to rob now, given the chance. They insult you, scratch your car if you don't give them money. Abayomi Akarakiri says, okay, thank you. Abayomi, I can't take that message, but I'll explain to you later. Tayo from Aja says, if they didn't stop Nigerians from using Twitter, then why can't Smooth FM release its social media handle on her platform?
Thank you.
Ada is no thank you anything. It's not supposed to.
Love you
Ada
too.
Ada from Ikoli says, thanks for the wonderful feel good morning Friday news. Hats off to Cheta and Waji for dropping fact upon facts on all the jokes that our federal government has been dropping, from education, being a priority with its minus 2% year-on-year allocation to CBN digital currency without electricity, and now Twitter jabs. Some more FGs on the roll. Thank you.
All right, Adam, thanks everyone for your comments. A big thank you to Waji. Waji is at the Corporate MC.
Corporate with a K.
Yeah, with a K.
On Instagram.
On
only.
Instagram. And Chester is at Checkstar. Please turn off that mic because I'm sure you on Twitter and Instagram. At Checkstar.
On Twitter.
On Instagram. Thank you so much for a Feel Good Friday edition of Freshly Pressed 91. And thanks to all our listeners for your comments. We'll take this conversation offline. If you want to send in a message, you can send it under the comment section on Instagram.
Yes.
All right. Next up, in 10 minutes, we bring you today's edition of the Feel Good Friday, Lagos Talks 981.